no, it's just really good to see y'all. It's really good to be here. With that, I guess we'll go ahead and we will jump into our episode today. Let's go ahead, we'll lower the bridge, raise the gates, because it's time to enter the keep.
Y'all are on my TV, so that's kind of cool.
Yeah,
You keep looking here, and I'm looking there, and I'm looking here, and I'm looking there.
And there's no character interest today. So
back to Laura.
All right, let's go ahead and jump into the game then, because this is gonna be fun. If y'all haven't seen our character intros yet, they're really cool. We worked pretty hard on them, and they came out pretty well, if I do say so myself. Jay, do we have those up on YouTube, or are they just on the Twitch videos?
No, they are on YouTube.
So you should definitely check out our YouTube page. We're the Keep RPG across the multi-webs, right?
That is correct.
I should know and say with confidence.
Right.
But y'all should totally check them out. It's been a couple of weeks, guys. This is fun.
How do you play D&D again?
Well, let's start with a little bit of a recap.
There's something with these dice, right?
Little shiny click clacks? Yes.
Oh, is that the technical name?
Yes, exactly. So last y'all were here, we had y'all on your way to the city of Whitebrand to find some more information about the Underlord, this sort of mysterious figure who y'all suspect has the third journal that y'all are looking for on this world. Val has some suspicions that he is some sort of beholderkin aberration based on the symbols that y'all found in the caves and the various regional names that seem to be pointed in that direction. So you're very cautious as you're approaching the area. You had gotten things pretty well wrapped up in Farndale and headed up to Grimhold. And while you were in Grimhold, you met this very enchanting figure, Miss Rye Excellence, who has, as some sort of representative of the library, agreed to accompany you on her own business to the Underlord and to get things figured out and accomplish her own mission once she's there. Y'all are 8 days out from Grimhold at this point. Late in the afternoon of the 8th day, you had come across this carnage where a caravan had been attacked and some caravanners were killed, but the vast majority of them were captured. And their goods, by and large, taken and destined, you suppose, for slavery. You track them down. You manage to kill their captors, most of whom are bedded down, asleep, silenced, thanks to Val. And so they never even knew what was coming. It is approaching midnight at this point. The captives have been freed. Their chains have been struck. Some of them are still wounded, and the children especially are looking fairly exhausted. But you're still in this clearing. What do y'all choose to do?
Well,
I will continue. My action from last one, which is making sure that everybody who was asleep stays that way for the rest of eternity.
And I remember I walked off. I was gonna go find the other people who were still chained up and, rip the chains apart.
Mm-hmm. You have accomplished that. We did say that you had done that before the end of last session.
Okay. I don't remember. Now I know.
I was entertaining the women and children, but as soon as I would have seen Torian head off with Halbert, I probably would have broken over to join that conversation.
Let's go ahead and we'll start with that then. Halbert, you got Torian's attention and sort of drew him away from the majority of people. Rye is coming over to join this conversation.
So, bring me up to speed a little bit, Elf, or
is he a tiefling?
He appears to be an elf.
But I know
wounded.
differently.
This is
the caravan individual, right, that I interacted with. Sorry, I'm trying to find my notes. All this is moved around.
Torian is the caravan leader.
Yeah, he's definitely
You have previously
tiefling.
met a caravan very similar to this, who had been led by a red tiefling. Very dressed in very rich clothing and covered with jewelry and very friendly and outgoing, confident in the way he carried himself. This was, you saw him the first time you had been scouting out towards Boulder Peak, trying to get a lead on this third journal. At that point, you did not know his name. You just recognized that he had a symbol that Cortana also used to carry. And you recognized it as a symbol of the Traveler. And you kept it fairly abrupt at that point. Y'all did not engage with him a whole lot.
Cool. Many greetings again, my friend. Is this the entirety of your crew, or were there any more that we don't know about?
This is all that was taken, and I must thank you for your assistance in this matter. I dread to think what would have happened had you not intervened, so you have our thanks.
Yeah. We can get down to brass tacks later, I guess, but if this is all that there is, I think it's best to make tracks and move away from here, maybe get to the edge of the forest and set camp, allow ourselves to rest for a moment, and restock. Unless you're more familiar with this area, I think making distance would be good, though, and giving us a chance to breathe would also be very good.
Perhaps, and he sort of looks over his shoulder at the carnage, the sleeping bodies that are currently being transitioned unto death. He's like, I think that may perhaps be wise. You'll forgive me, I'm not quite myself at the moment.
I've noticed.
My name is Torian. I lead this caravan here, and he puts out his hand for you to shake.
Which I will shake. I'll shake his hand.
All right. He seems to read some of the reticence in your body language, and sort of withdraws a little bit back to himself.
I'm gonna point. Where's the horns, my friend?
He sort of stiffens.
If I'm there at this point, I'll kind of step in and reach out to him and say, Don't bother with him. He has very poor manners, and take my own pendant off as I shake his hand.
He shakes your hand and sees you sort of transform into your gray-skinned glory. And he relaxes again and sort of side-eyes Halberd. And, well,
I smile.
it's a pleasure to make your acquaintance. And he sort of bows over your hand. And, may I inquire as to your name, lovely lady?
Oh, very excellent, darling. Yes, thank you.
Torian Glendower. As you see, we are not at our best to greet you. But he does reach up, and where his elven ears sort of come to a point that you can see, he sort of extends his hand and runs his hand around it and pulls his hair away and unclips his own, looks like an earring almost, very plain and small, fairly unnoticeable, and his visage does shift into a bright red tiefling.
Well,
Go ahead.
Outside.
You first, you're the DM.
The horns do sweep back, and there are a number of other small pendants and charms. His clothing does seem to shift a little bit into something brighter colored and a little bit more flamboyant. And you can see the illusion had covered a couple of chains around his neck, pieces of jewelry and necklaces and pendants. And you now see revealed, that catches your eye in particular, Halberd, the traveler symbol that you had previously noted some weeks before.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how fabulous is he dressed?
We'll put up at a solid, like, not quite leopard prints.
I was so hoping, though.
Pretty fabulously.
Everybody wants a leopard.
A bit blood
Wait, would it be leopard print, or would it just be straight up leopard?
Well, that is an
So that'd be a
excellent
tabaxi.
So this
what?
guy.
So this guy could.
So
What I'm hearing is this guy could definitely side job as a pimp.
I will neither confirm nor deny.
Anyways.
About this point, Val and Solyex have finished their grisly business of dispatching the rest of the mercenary band. Brigands.
Creatures.
You know,
Mostly human, actually.
human
Primarily human.
traffickers.
And I don't know that I would call anybody who traffics in humans a person.
We'll go with creature.
No,
Well,
they're
yeah.
dead.
Well, yeah, now they're a corpse, so I guess that's a moot point.
I mean, it's just a pile of meat now, isn't it?
Hey, we got
bonfire. Let's start a barbecue.
Those of y'all who have passive, actually, all of y'all have passive perceptions 10 and above, right? Nobody has a negative.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So y'all would all start to see, probably except Val and Solyex, because you two have been distracted. But as soon as they see Rye and Torian, there are about 12 or 14 others of the other captives who are also removing charms and going into shedding illusions to reveal other tieflings.
What? So just lots of tieflings.
I will greet them in
Interesting.
Infernal.
I will also greet them in Infernal.
I will say half of me because all I know is curse words.
All
I hear is angry yelling.
Yeah,
I'm just
so
gonna-
maybe since you only know how to curse that thing, you shouldn't greet them in Infernal.
I'm gonna
But,
smile at Tori.
We'll take care of you.
Now, there's the horns that were blessed to grow much longer, but I do think it's time we actually vacate this area.
All I have on my screen is Lauren.
It is
Everyone
like
disappeared.
evening-ish right now, right? Or like
It's
into
getting towards midnight at this point.
whatever. Yeah. So
It's
bedtime.
very
Bedtime is
late.
good. Bedtime.
Mm-hmm.
So we want the bedtime.
Had anybody
From
searched
here.
Had anybody searched the guards and stuff that we took down last time before we ended?
No, we were.
No,
So
that was
I would like to.
While all of that was happening,
bodies.
Looting through the bodies.
I would say
After after we get everybody out of the campsite, I'll hang behind and start going through
I was
all
going to
the,
say about
the remains.
What
I'm
is-
bad at searching. I'll help too.
Time out. Time out.
Actually, no.
Can we just try to set a precedent real fast of if one person's talking, let him finish or her finish? Because I'm getting about 70 people all at once, except they're the same 8 voices. So, one person, the rest
So it's
of
not
us
bad.
kind
It's
of
not
try
good when other
patience.
people talk
and
over
then
people
go.
when people talk when they're talking.
Right.
Yes, like that.
Then I get kicked from the call.
So once we start escorting them out, I will stay behind and begin going through and make sure there's nothing important that needs to be found. I will actually I'll just straight up cast detect magic. I won't do a ritual, just see if anything pings
And
And I'll give Solix a hand.
I'm gonna guard the people and help get them somewhere safer. Like, escort.
So, Halberd, Rye, and Doran, y'all are heading out with the people towards the edge of the woods, back sort of the direction you had come.
I will follow Halberd's lead.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Halberd, I assume you are going to be leading the way for the most part on this. Yes?
Mm-hmm.
So go
Yeah.
ahead and
Thing is
make a
guard.
survival check with advantage because this is your favorite terrain. And then we'll get to y'all with the bodies here in just a moment.
While Halberd is leading the way, I'll loop my arm around Torian's and just start chatting with him as we're walking.
All right. You do
18.
18. Okay. So yeah, it's not too hard to find the path, the way back out. You're very familiar with keeping your bearings in wood like this, in a forest like this. So you managed to guide everyone and not lose anybody off the trail. We'll get to Torian and Rye here in just a moment. Doran, as y'all are going along, there are a couple of the adults who are keeping a close eye on you, walking closer just to, because even though you helped them, you still haven't, they don't quite know what to make of you. So they're keeping an eye as y'all are walking along.
I'll just, like, if I notice them staring at me, I'll just, like, a little subtle wave, hi, kind of thing.
Not necessarily staring. You get, actually, roll an insight check for me.
Oh, good, I'm great at those. Actually, no, I have a +3, that's awesome.
Nice.
13!
Hold on.
A
A +4, it does not constitute being good at stealth, but a +3 in insight constitutes being good at insight.
I'm sensing
I'm sensing inconsistency here.
Well, I mean, I have proficiency in it, I just don't have any kind of positive modifier.
See, he's proficient in it. That's the difference.
Still not good.
Hate you, Gary.
Alright, so what was the
I
total?
will tell you, homie. Yes, ma'am.
Doran, what was the total roll?
13,
13.
the luckiest number.
Is a lucky number. You do get a sense that, especially the tieflings of the group, have not necessarily had great positive interactions with most people when they're in their tiefling form. So they're waiting to see sort of how you handle it and what you're going to do before they really relax their guard around you. Back, those of y'all with the corpses.
People are on my TV again.
Who is wanting to sort of take the lead? You're casting Detect Magic, Celiax, right?
Yes.
Alright.
So
You don't get
I'll
any
be.
in particular. There's nothing inherently magical that stands out to. No, I take that back. There's one ping that you do get, and it is in the school of. Let me look that up real quick.
I'm not just looking away, by the way. Like, all the people's on my phone are on my TV. Whoa, I can see y'all's faces. Y'all so pretty.
Super big.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You do find one source of magic, and it is in the School of Evocation.
Okay. Yeah, I'll just go definitely pick that up and then start looking through to see what else I could find. So.
It is a small crystal.
Cool.
Not finely worked. It doesn't appear valuable. In fact, it looks a fair bit like a rock or a stone. But there's something magical about it.
Magic crystal, you say?
I will put that in along with whatever other gold or weapons or interesting jewelry I could find.
Magic gemstones interest me very greatly.
Celiax, you're just picking it up and putting it away?
Yeah, I mean, I'll figure out if it doesn't do anything when I immediately mess with it, then I'll figure I'd put it away and let Case Store take a look at it.
It doesn't do anything immediately, not off the bat. Seems fairly inactive.
Yeah. Okay, well, so it's something magical about it, so I'll put it away and then have Case Store take a look at it.
Okay.
And then, yeah, I'll look for just gold, any weapons or anything like that I'll pick up.
Okay. There are lots and lots of cheap weapons. Tor, you mentioned you were also going to be looking through the bodies?
Yes.
Alright. You were actually the first one I heard make that comment, so I'm going to say that you go ahead and get a head start on everybody on this. So I'm going to go ahead and have you roll investigation. I'm going to have you roll it with advantage, because they're also going to be looking around and assisting you, I'll assume.
Okay. Natural 20.
Now, for a total of
21.
Okay. So you're managing to go through the various purses, and there are a number of the brigands who had small pouches sort of tucked closer, like inside their tunics or hanging on a string around their neck. And it's interesting because the ones who'd had this pouch sort of hanging as a necklace almost, tucked inside their shirts, those pouches all contain coin of various amounts, and you see that these 18 or 20 who have these pouches seem to be, they have the cheapest weapons, the poorest clothing, generally the least gear on them. So all told, you do find about 200 gold pieces.
Nice.
You find various cheap sets of leather and hide armor. You find their short swords and short bows. You can collect probably close to about 100 arrows between the various quivers distributed among them. So you can go ahead and get 5 quiverfuls of arrows and another 3 quiverfuls of crossbow bolts, and 2 decent repair crossbows.
What kind of crossbows?
Crossbows? Yeah.
These ones are hand crossbows, I believe.
And you said there were 2 of those?
I'm pulling this up to make sure.
In case it were, whatever you don't want, I can put in the bag. So just let me know what to put.
I think
I'm a weaponsmith that can fix all that.
These are not hand crossbows. These are light crossbows.
Light crossbows? Okay.
Yes.
So as Kesator is going through the bodies, and I'm assuming stripping them of anything useful, as he takes them away, I'll start dragging the bodies out of the clearing.
Okay.
Kesator, imagine you need the bolts.
yes, and halberd the arrows, of course.
Yeah, I'll hang on to those arrows for halberd. I have a stash in the bag for those.
Yeah.
So there are 100 of them?
100 arrows.
Okay.
Yeah, that's there's 100 arrows. I didn't hear numbers on the leather armor and the short swords.
That's because all 30 or so of them are carrying short swords.
Gotcha.
So you can take as many of those as you would like.
I'll say we find like the 2 or 3 that are in the best condition.
Yeah.
Okay.
You don't want to take all 30?
I mean, most of them are cheap and made of pot metal.
Jordan, if you want a ton of raw
Really
material,
cold and edge.
I'll grab both of those.
nothing in
light
amazing
crossbows as
condition,
well.
but maybe 2 or 3 that are
Anyway,
in decent
it
condition.
doesn't matter. I'm just fooling.
Okay.
So you can find 3 fairly decent
Okay.
short swords. Nothing fancy. Nothing.
Just a single short bow?
No, you can find half a dozen short bows, but they're they're not great quality. These have not been taken super great care of.
Sure.
You can see the
I'm just
bone
gonna put
strings
down-
are starting to fray.
Yeah.
The wood itself is starting to warp a little bit.
Sure. So
You guess they've been carried in the moisture and the rain and not given a chance to dry properly.
Is that something that the mending cantrip could help with, like the actual wood?
You could probably straighten the wood out and probably bring the strings back, but it would take a little bit of doing. Sometimes you have to go through each piece and make sure everything fits together well.
So yes, I can refurbish these. I would say take just a couple of them.
Okay, I also can do what you're talking about.
Okay.
So I'll grab the 2 light crossbows from you.
Okay.
And then I'm thinking grab of the short swords.
The 3 short swords?
Yeah.
Yep.
And then 3 sets of leather armor.
Yep.
Good.
And then I will give you the 2. You already got the short bows, yes?
Yeah.
Okay.
How many are we grabbing of those?
I was just gonna do 2.
2. Okay.
And then I'll give you the 200 gold.
Okay. And then the bolts. Are you keeping all those? I have 20 bolts in the bag right now.
Okay. I've been marking off as I lose them. I think I'm at I'm at 15 bolts, so I can probably. I'll just take 1 quiver and give you the other 2.
Okay, so that's how many bolts?
2 quivers, so 40.
Okay, so yeah, if you ever need bolts, I have 60 in the bag now.
Awesome.
Okay.
Sweet. Guys, that's like the first natural 20 I've rolled in like 6 or 8 weeks. Just to find bolts and crappy short swords.
Hey,
Gotta start somewhere.
There was no like rings or jewelry or anything on any of them, weren't there?
Nope.
You said they were all dressed pretty shabby.
Yeah, I just wanted
Pretty
to
shabby.
make sure. Double check.
Fantasy dumpster divers.
Essentially, there are 6 or 8 that are dressed not nice, but slightly better woven shirt, slightly warmer gear. Their boots don't have as many holes in them. These are the ones that had the majority of the money, and the nicer gear came from these 6 or 8 bodies.
Okay. Right, well, I got all of those in the bag now. Whatever we use those for. Alright.
Alright, anything y'all want to take care of with the rest of the bodies before you catch up to the group?
We're gonna have a barbecue. No, I'm just gonna basically burn all the dead bodies and do my funeral rites over them.
Alright. You can start the fire. It will take a fair amount of time to actually burn the bodies. This is not a quick process. It's going to take several hours. And you're going to have to stay there to make sure the flames stay hot enough, or you will probably attract things that are also interested in the meat. So you can go ahead and you can do this, but you will probably not be getting rest tonight if this is something you choose to start now.
How many spell slots do I have? Because let's be honest, health is less the issue than spell slots. It would also help if I had the right thing pulled up. Yeah, with the amount of bodies, I mean, I'll still do the funeral rites, but rather than burn them, I'll actually lay them out individually. And being that they are what they are, the animals can have them.
I was so hoping
If we wanted to, we could pile them in a pile. I could cast Tiny Hut over them and do the fire inside the Tiny Hut.
Keep in mind, Tiny Hut has a range of self. If you leave the Tiny Hut,
Oh, that's right. Never mind.
Case it were, I will go out with them.
No, I'll just drag him out of sight to where we can use the clearing if we want. But they're definitely outside of the women and children, and then I'll lay him out, perform the funeral rites, and
keep in mind, y'all are alone. Just the three of y'all in the clearing now. The women and children and the other men have gone with Halbert and Ryan Doran, and they're headed back to the tree line.
Cool beans.
Cool beans.
Yeah, so we can just lay them out in the clearing itself.
I thought about that, but I was like, if we want to use the clearing,
Halbert already let them out of the clearing, so they I think we're good there.
Yeah, it's been 30 or 40 minutes since they left the clearing at this point.
Oh, okay.
As y'all have been searching and looting through the bodies and taking care of everything, some time has passed.
Fair enough.
Fair enough. Okay, then we'll just lay him out.
Do the thing.
Do the thing.
I will.
Place my one of the holy symbols of Samine down in the middle of the group. And right underneath her, I'll just out of respect for the previous night's meeting, I'll draw a little traveler symbol in the dirt.
Okay. Keep in mind that was almost a week ago that you had this encounter with.
This is my first dead body.
This is true. It was just not the last night. It was.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
The week ago. The other night.
Yeah.
So you go ahead and you draw that in the dirt.
Yep.
Okay.
I will doodle in the dirt.
I will say after you do this, what's your passive perception?
18.
Okay. There's a brief flash of green that catches your attention. The side of the corner, and there's nothing there.
Alright, sorry.
Audio cut out. I lost you after a flash of green.
Remember, you've been following carts to get to the clearing. You look around, you realize there aren't any carts here. The goods, the caravan carts, their wagons must have been taken farther into the woods.
Interesting.
So the path that they take catches your eye. You have an idea of the direction those would have traveled. It is well past midnight by this point. Right. As you and Torian were heading with everybody else towards the tree line, Halbert's a little ways up, leading the group, just double checking that everybody's staying on the trail. You and Torian are close to the middle of the group, letting some people walk a little ahead of you, and some people, you're close enough you can hear them coming behind you. A number of the adults are passing by Torian and just checking in, and then going back to wherever they were walking in the path. You said you wanted to be talking with him.
Well, the first question I have is, do I notice the way that they're acting around Doran?
They're not hiding it. They are cautious around Doran. There is definitely also a radius that they're not crossing around Halberd.
I'll call to them in Infernal. Sorry?
Subtle. Okay, say that one more time.
I will call back to them in Infernal in regards to Doran, not necessarily Halberd, but to Doran, and I'll be like, oh, don't worry about him, darlings. He's probably the most decent of the lot. If you want to try and teach him a little bit of Infernal, he would take to that very well.
a sort of shifting of glances as they start looking at each other, raising eyebrows, and then a general relaxing. They start a couple of the not the youngest kids who are being carried and are mostly asleep by this point, but a couple of the older, like preteen age, 10, 12, somewhere in there, start walking a little bit closer and start tutoring each other a little bit and correcting pronunciation, teaching each other some of the not curse words, but kids' version of curse words. You know, heck. Trying to raise the mood and being enjoying being able to get away with some of the naughtiness that they can. There's a general chuckle that comes from 2 or 3 of the adults, but they don't correct them. They let them go on and do what they were doing.
And so I'll just lean into the arm that I've got on Torian and be like, so darling, I hope everything is well with your group. It seems very unfortunate that this has happened to you. We stumbled upon you, a friend of yours, Zasira, I believe was her name. She alerted us to your presence and that we should be on the lookout for you, and I'm so glad we did find you.
Zasira's an old friend. You're familiar with Underhold then, and the safety for our people there. And he is speaking in Infernal at this point.
Oh yes, darling. And I'll respond to him in the same. It doesn't. Yes, definitely. We thought it was such a lovely place. It reminded me very much of home. I enjoyed it ever so much. Although I must say it was a bit of a interesting interaction for some of my companions. But as you can see, they, when pushed in the correct direction, do tend to make the right decisions.
And I take it you're one to do the pushing then.
Oh, darling, I would not put that on myself. I don't intend to be with them that long.
He sort of gives you a puzzled glance. These are not your usual travel companions, then?
Oh, hardly. I don't typically travel with anyone. I'm usually on my own most of the time. But, you know, one does as one needs to, and I ran into them. It was a very interesting meeting. We won't get into the details of that. But yes, I have run across them, and we seem to be on the same focuses, and so I felt, why not? It would be interesting to travel with such a unrefined group.
Well, he sort of has this concerned look on his face. He said, Underhold is like your home, you said. You travel by yourself. Are you, well, forgive me if I'm being indecorous, but are you sure you can keep yourself safe? Traveling alone is very dangerous. As you saw, even traveling in groups like this, our people can hardly trust the world around us. You do have, and he pauses, thinks over his words for a moment, a home you may go to.
Oh yes, darling, I'm very much far removed from where y'all are at. But yes, I have a home that I go to. I have companions that look after me as need be. But you will find that traveling on one's own is typically a lot easier to get past some of the defenses than traveling in such a large group as you find yourself.
Fair enough. We do attract some attention. I cannot deny that. He sort of nods and looks you over, and as you say, I don't suppose, well, it may be a bit presumptuous of me.
Oh, darling,
You travel often, then?
Oh, yes, darling, of course.
He almost subconsciously sort of reaches up and touches his pendant. It's shaped like an archway, and there's a delicate curving line that runs through it. Roll a religion check for me, right?
$19.
19. All right. Yes, you don't often meet them, but you do know you have come across the followers of the Traveler before in your journeys with the library. You do know that some of them are favored by the Traveler and can travel among the planes as you can. Without the use of a sanctum, but with their deity to guide them and to guide their steps, they can sometimes.
Ignore me.
Okay. They can sometimes move among the worlds. Roll an insight.
Good. 14.
It's not clear at this point whether Torian is aware of this and is sort of sounding you out to see if this is something that that you're aware of also, or is it, if this is something that you do. Your talk about journeying and travels, especially by yourself, has caught his attention for sure.
Darling, I see you have a similar friend as apparently one of my previous companions. It's a very odd story. I'm not entirely sure I understand it myself. But it seems like you have a connection with the one called the Traveler, yes?
He smiles, nods. Aye, the one who guides our steps.
Yes, I don't particularly worship him myself, but there are many that I know in my hometown who do. He is an interesting fellow, very interesting indeed.
You could say that for sure. He enjoys keeping life interesting.
Don't we all, though?
Your hometown, is it near to here?
It's near to everywhere, darling.
Ah, one of those types.
Yes.
And he gets this very not quite a giddy grin, but there's this sort of relaxation and confidence that seems to come over him. He looks behind and around at his people. You walk between worlds, then?
I walk between many things, but yes, that is one of them.
Fascinating. As you can see, we are fairly bereft at the moment, and we'll need some time to recover our stock before we move off again.
Yes, of course.
I don't suppose you could recommend a place where we may rest and recover. This world in particular does not favor our kind well.
Yes, darling. I have noted that.
My bad.
Would I be familiar with a world that would be a bit more comfortable with tieflings?
There are a number you could choose from. You passed through one not terribly long ago. This one had been, there was a world called Illyria, and there had been a little bit of civil dispute in some of the northern provinces, but there's a much more relaxed attitude towards those of different race than is prevalent here.
Well, Well, darling, I can't think of one particular place. Do you have scouts, or do you tend to bring your whole group with you when you go to travel somewhere?
Generally, we travel in family groups. This here you see are mostly my cousins that are traveling with me now.
Cousins, I love cousins.
They are, and he pauses and tries to think of the right word for a moment. Troublesome, by and large, I must confess. But
I do believe that's what my cousin would say about me, but...
He laughs. There are some of us who stayed in Underhold we would wish to reunite with. It's likely we will be heading that way before we leave this world, and
yes,
of course we will have to let Mrs. Zira know that we are unable to complete the delivery. I don't think it'd be very wise to go chasing down our wagons at this point.
Well, that is unfortunate. What is exactly were you delivering for her?
Herbs, spices, medicines of some varieties. There are a few more esoteric items we were carrying that I cannot in good conscience disclose.
Oh, how very interesting, darling. Very interesting. Esoteric isn't something that perhaps we don't want falling in the wrong hands.
Unfortunately, I believe it is a bit too late for that.
It doesn't have to be, darling.
Talking in Abyssal this whole time, right?
Infernal,
yeah.
Yeah.
Whatever.
I would say, darling. It's all
Language I don't know. That's the point.
I know both of them.
Not related specifically to this group, darling, but if you are feeling a little bit more comfortable, my hometown has people who do specialize, if we know the location of an object, in retrieving them. So if that's something that you believe would be ill-advised to fall into the wrong hands, I can alert some authorities on my planet, on my world, and they might be able to assist in that matter.
If I knew where they were going to be ending up, I
Oh,
would.
darling, don't worry about that. We can find them if you'll just tell me what they are.
He looks at you. Make a persuasion check. He's very quizzical. He sort of glances up and down, trying to decide whether you're trustworthy.
25.
Nice.
Well, okay then.
Rolled an 18. Something about your demeanor seems to resonate with him as he takes in your wide eyes. Of course, you only want to be of assistance.
Of course, darling.
He does sort of. He leans in a little closer and he lowers his voice. We were transporting 3 custom weapons that had been invented and prepared for a particular buyer. I'm not aware of who exactly that was. Zasira had kept that confidential. The weapons themselves are of a rarity I have seen infrequently, if ever. They were each enchanted with various effects, and how much information do you need to know to be able to pass this on?
Well, if, darling, you were perhaps the one who is most familiar with the item, then we can discuss a little bit more the details of their specificities. That way we're able to find them. If there's another among you who is better equipped to do so, I can speak with them at a later moment. I know it is quite late, so I don't want to keep you up any further than necessary.
While I do possess the skill of falling asleep standing up, sleeping while I'm walking is usually ill-advised, I would say.
Oh, yes,
so until we reach our destination. The the most powerful of the items is the one I am most concerned about. It looks, at first appearance, fairly insignificant, the hilt of a broken sword. Except when that sword is summoned, when it is activated after it has been attuned to the proper user, it creates a blade that extends from this hilt. Magical in nature, it is somehow seems to guide the user's hand. It seems to make it easier to strike your foe. Fair amount. It seems to do more damage than a normal weapon should. In addition, there is some dark mystical energy that inhabits the blade and seems to cause its own effects.
Okay, very interesting, darling. As he's describing these things to me, I will take out the journal that I used to write back and forth the outs and just start writing down what he's telling me.
Okay. So you go ahead and you record, you take notes, and you do you leave a message to oust with it, or just the notes and the details of the weapon?
Oh no, there's a little message to oust. Dolly, I heard of the most fascinating things on this particular planet, and I was hoping you might forward them on to the appropriate authorities. I'm, as you know, ill-disposed.
Have we made it back yet?
Y'all are 30 or 40 minutes behind them. So they're just starting to approach the tree line.
Okay.
The woods are starting to thin. They'll probably be out in 15 or 20 minutes. It'll be probably just at this point where you're finishing laying out the corpses and preparing to start following them.
All right.
As we are walking, before I start telling him a little bit about Illyria, I will just say, 2 boons I would ask of you, my darling. The first one, for the benefit of these interesting party members I find myself with, and the second one, possibly for the benefit of Zasira. Whenever you get back, if you would please let her know that the paladin and arbiter of Bahamut that she met earlier was a part of your rescue. She will know who it is you're talking about. He made quite an impression on her. If you will just let her know, he was of benefit in this particular situation. And the second one, we have a friend, and I'm blanking on her name. Tahira. We have a friend named Tahira, who is currently owns a shop, and she may be a good connection for you to make to help you with the transition of some things from Grimhold into Underhold, if you understand my meaning.
He nods. I think I do. Thank you very much for your assistance, Miss Rye.
Of course.
He sort of looks around and realizes the trees are starting to thin, and his people are starting to. The adrenaline has worn off, and the wear and tear is starting to show, and they're starting to slow. Because the exhaustion is starting to come over them. He's like, as fascinating company as you do provide, I do think it is time for us to start perhaps settling for the evening.
Oh yes, darling, we all need beauty sleep. This is not kept up naturally.
And he gets a full belly laugh. The first real laugh you've heard in a fair while. Well, Miss Rye, it has truly been a pleasure. He sort of extends his hand, and gestures for your hand.
I will give it to him and do a little curtsy.
He bows over it and kisses the back of your hand, and I thank you for all of your assistance, and may the traveler guard your path until we do meet again.
You as well.
And so he goes and he starts sort of shepherding his people with them prepared for the evening.
Well, before they go off, I want to go up to him and give him the plans that I made for the shovel and the pickaxe so they can continue working in Underhold.
He thanks you very much. I'm afraid I didn't quite catch your name, Sir Dwarf.
But excuse me. My name is Doran Drunheim. I'm actually a blacksmith, and Miss Zahira had asked me if I could take on the work, but I wasn't able to stay for obvious reasons. We're traveling right now, but I at least have some plans drawn up, so maybe when I get back I can help, but at least you'll have a start.
I will pass this on with your regards, and thank you very much. I'm sure they will greatly appreciate it.
You're very welcome.
Have a safe rest of your evening, I suppose. Forgive me, I must attend to my people.
Aye, go do that.
So he starts getting his people bedded down for the evening. They start forming a sort of rough circle. The children are pretty much all asleep by this point, or mostly asleep and being sort of watched over by the women and the older adults. Pretty quickly, they get a really rough camp situated down. There's not, they don't light a fire, they don't, give too much indication of their presence. They're trying to keep as minimally disturbed as they can for the environment. And fairly quickly, by the time the rest of y'all follow the tracks and reach this party, almost all of them are asleep.
Well, suppose bed would be a good thing. We still have a long journey ahead of us.
I'll relay the information about the tracks that I found.
Okay, Satori, do you think you could set up a place for us to sleep for the night?
I can do that. And I will cast Tiny.
Alright, so you go ahead and prepare the tiny hut. Y'all partake, I assume? And
Yes.
I'm on watch.
okay. I was going to ask if y'all were going to keep a watch or if everybody was just going to crash.
I figure we'll keep a watch, from within the tiny hut. I can take first watch with Halberd.
I will take the first and second, and I'll rest while the sun comes up when it's safer.
Okay.
I'll do second.
I'll take second with Doran.
I'll do final watch.
Okay,
Final
that will
watch.
be 3 of y'all on the second. Are y'all cool with that?
Who's the 3 on the second?
Yeah. Doran, Kizator, and Halberd. Because
Oh, Halberd said he was
4
taking
hours
okay.
because he's the elf. He just trances.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'll take third.
I'll do third.
I'll do
third with Casator.
Alright.
Number 2.
And then Rye gets her beauty sleep.
Mm-hmm. I will set up alarms before I do that, but yes.
Alright. So you go ahead and you set the alarms for the evening. Those of y'all on first watch. So that's Halberd and Cilius. Make a perception check.
16.
27.
Alright.
Yes, sir.
Halberd, you have dark vision, right?
Mm-hmm.
Cilius, do you? Remind me.
Nope. For some reason, Dragonborn don't have dark vision.
That always. I mean, I
It
understand
seems
it's kind of
wrong.
balanced, but it doesn't quite make sense to me. It's
No, because it seems. Yeah, no, they seem slightly.
Anyway,
The
Halberd
only thing
seems
they get is they breathe fire.
okay. Halberd, shortly after most of the party has bedded down, you do see 3 shapes coming along the road, walking, trudging, sort of just exhausted, but moving as best they can, sort of propping each other up as they continue.
Oops.
Following the tracks that y'all's wagon had left earlier, are the three youths who had managed to avoid detection and had been taking care of the bodies back at the initial attack site.
Oh, I can just imagine the look on their faces when they get to the clearing.
We will get there.
I'm going to step out a little bit, still being in cover, and I'll do kind of like a whistle, a soft, like not strong, just something that would be out of the ordinary and catch their attention.
Okay. Seeing if any of them actually hear it. Okay. Two of them remain fairly well oblivious, but the one in the middle seems slightly more alert than the others. He freezes for a moment, starts looking around, and then peers through the darkness. Hello? Somebody there?
I'll step out of the shadows a little bit, and I'll have Nightbane right beside me.
Oh God!
That's
That seems excessive, but okay.
Yes.
Nightbane's with me. So, plus, they should recognize him because he made an impression.
I mean, you were riding him the first time y'all met.
Yes.
Yes.
I still think you'd recognize a displaced beast when it's not normal.
They're the silence of the night is broken by a shriek.
I was so hoping.
I did not hear that at all.
A number of the adults, the captives, sort of startle awake, look and
You think?
A couple of kids start crying, but there's a few brief moments of alarm before they realize, oh wait, these people, this is not a monster emerging from the night to kill them. This is in fact their families and the people they were looking for. So there's a bit of a joyous reunion that crashes fairly quickly as adrenaline dies back down.
Everyone's gonna be scarred by the time they get home.
Right.
PTSD
to the max.
So the three youths are brought over, sort of enfolded into the group. Seeing the others in their tiefling forms, two of them do take charms off of their own horns and assume their true natures.
I really need to get me one of these charms.
Right?
I mean, you're
They're very useful.
So, anyways, I'll wait.
So over the next 20 or 30 minutes, the hubbub does die back down. People do resume their rest. A few of the adults actually wake themselves back up and start keeping their own watch, having realized the potential dangers of being snuck up on.
That's fair.
So they start walking around and just sort of pacing around the camp, keeping an eye out and an ear out for things in the night. The rest of the watch passes quietly.
I like to hear that.
Anything you'll want to do on the rest of first watch, or shall we go ahead and start second?
I mean, I'll just be watching and working on my little gift or whatever the heck I got from the... Is it a naiad?
It wasn't that. Yes.
As far as you know.
No, nothing.
It's all Greek to me.
There's a tiefling veneering.
Everyone we've met so far has been a tiefling with an
In the
ear.
whole world, there's just tieflings with earrings.
Yeah, that's what I'm actually starting to
They're all afraid of each other, not because they're all just tieflings.
No.
Tieflings are my favorite races.
5 members of the party are like, I have a
If you
confession.
speak infernal and abyssal.
I do speak infernal.
This whole time, so yeah.
No one's ever pulled on my ears before, so I'm just saying.
Have you ever confirmed for anyone that you're actually a dragonborn?
We spit fire a few times.
Yeah.
There's a potion that lets you do that.
Yeah.
True. Give me my watch, I'm rolling sleight of hand.
I mean, if anybody wants to roll an investigation check on Silly X to make sure he is actually a dragon.
We just all like start patting Solix. Why are you groping me?
Bad touch, bad touch, bad touch. I need you to go.
Right, slowly backs out of the
Well, someone help me.
situation.
When Solix realizes he is the adult of the group.
So, first watch, that went smoothly.
Yeah, second watch.
Hey, I'm awake.
Alright. Go ahead and roll perception checks for our second watch.
Not as good.
Yeah, 13 total.
Hey, you did better than me.
Oh, God.
That's
Well,
not good.
jeez.
Okay. As y'all are going through second watch, you don't notice anything. The night seems to be passing quietly. About an hour before the watch ends, you do see the sun slowly starting to rise. The horizon is getting a little bit brighter.
And I'll have to wait for third watch.
Hold on. How tight is their security around their earrings?
Oh, for God.
Oh, no.
Do I see him try this?
It depends on how stealthy he's trying to be.
Stealthy stealth.
He hasn't tried anything. He's looking. The ones who are asleep, and like pretty dead asleep. They're not stirring very much at all. Those on watch are walking. The two of them are basically walking a perimeter. They're not. They seem to be more focused on what's happening out rather than what might be happening in. What do you want to do?
I want to be really, really quiet and use the shadows pretty well.
All right. To do what?
I just want to be quiet right now as they walk by.
Okay. You're not moving at this point. You're just sort of observing them. You know you are a fairly stealthy individual. Unless you're trying something, I'm gonna say they're not paying a whole lot of attention to you. Now, if you want to go do something that might get their attention, then you can try and roll stuff.
Walk closer to the group.
Okay.
This is gonna be amazing.
They just sort of started to like us. Making friends everywhere we go.
No, they did. They liked you. They didn't like me, and they made that obvious.
Gee, I wonder why they don't trust people here.
Gee, I wonder why they don't like the guy with the giant displacer beast walking next to him.
See, I wonder why they didn't like the guy who might have just like helped break them out of slavery. I mean, it makes so much sense to hate the people who rescue you. I'm just saying.
Robert,
Dude.
what's your roll?
What?
I guess I need to, like, do I see him
25.
do this? Never mind, I guess I don't.
Doran, is there any way you could actually meet his 25?
on your buck.
If I use strength somehow to... I look really wrongly at him. I don't know.
So how's fairly well hidden as you approach, as you're walking closer to the group. You do notice that they're fur shrines. Tails are sort of wrapping around legs. The kids especially are basically one giant cuddle puddle. The adults are a little bit more in a perimeter around the kids in a rough sort of encirclement. What do you want to do?
Does everything look safe?
You don't see any danger.
There's a strange man standing amongst all these people.
I'm just gonna go follow the two guards, and I'll walk the perimeter with them till the end of the night.
Okay.
And I will make myself known to them as they are walking, so I'm not coming out of the silence.
Okay.
So you left Doran all on his own.
No. He's gonna have seen that I walked because I'm gonna break stealth, so. Plus, are you outside the hut or are you inside the hut?
I figured I was outside, but I didn't think
Okay.
I'd be. I don't know, just. I'd
You got Night Bane with
be
you.
around. Probably patrolling a little back and forth between where our stuff is and where the other people's happen to be.
Yep. Cool.
Okay. As you're
That'll be
walking
it.
with them over the next couple of hours, they do start to relax. After a short and kind of awkward silence, where you're walking a little ways behind them, the two of them, a man and a woman, both tieflings, do speak quietly to each other in Infernal, but then they turn to you and introduce themselves.
Oh, crap.
But it is.
The male tiefling is a bright blue tiefling, although it's very hard to tell in the night. It seems like he generally appears to be more in the dark in shades of gray. The female tiefling is a much darker true gray, closer to Rye, and her general appearance. He introduces himself as Aaron, and she introduces herself as Lannis, and they do thank you for your assistance, and kind of awkwardly invite you to walk with them rather than behind them.
I'll go ahead and I'll walk perimeter with them. Just make small talk, but not encroach too much and not ask a lot of questions, just dialogue and let them know that not all elves are super scary.
Just ones with the Spicer Beasts.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, hanging out in shadows.
The longer you walk and talk with them, the more relaxed they seem to get. They're obviously tired and worn and sort of not quite processing at full capacity. But it does, the talking does help to sort of keep them awake and aware of what's going on. About an hour or so before the watch ends, the sun does start to come up, and the rest of the watch does pass quietly.
Sounds good. I'm gonna go to bed.
Alright, you go ahead and you start your trance. Doran, you catch the other 4 hours of your night's sleep. Day's sleep, I guess, at this point.
But whatever time. Time is irrelevant or irrelevant or irrelevant. Elephant. I'm gonna stop talking now.
Alright. Kizator and Val. You take the third watch. The sun is up by the time you start your watch, but it's still fairly low on the horizon. The morning is relatively cool. The skies are clear. What do y'all... go ahead and make perception checks for me for the watch.
Oh,
That's a good perception.
that's a good perception check.
14.
28.
28.
Woo! That is a good perception check. Alright, so Val, you're the first one to notice. Most of the adults are still asleep, and the kids start to stir. You see a little bit of activity, starting with some slight nudges and a little flicks of the tail. And you see 3 of the kids are trying to be very sneaky as they exit this pile. They're not very sneaky. They're not very stealthy. They're
About how far
About how far away are we from
them?
oh, not far. You or how far away did you set the tiny hut from the group, Kazator?
Probably 30, 40 feet.
Okay, so you're probably about that far away.
All right.
Perfect. Seeing the kids,
I will
cast Spiritual Guardians
and
make them look like little chipmunk type deals. And just have them kind of like flit around the group so the kids can chase them.
Alright. And the kids do delight in chasing the little chipmunks. They try to pounce on them. And remind me, are the spiritual guardians intangible, or do they have form?
They're spectral.
They're spectral.
Okay.
So it's basically
like cats with a laser pointer. What I'm getting this image.
And over the next couple of minutes, this turns into a rousing game of chase and pounce, where the kids are accidentally leaping on top of other kids in their efforts to get to the little chipmunk farms, and the adults start sort of groaning themselves awake. Helped along by a 4-year-old pouncing on their gut or tripping over their leg or stepping on their tail.
It's a
thing.
It's a thing. Fairly quickly, the rest of the camp rouses.
As soon as
oh gosh,
it just lost his name.
Our
elf tiefling friend.
Torian.
Thank you.
And he is still in his tiefling form this morning.
All right.
As soon as he's awake, I want to go talk to him.
All right. You see him start to stir pretty quickly. You head on over, and he says, "And a pleasant morning to you."
It's certainly starting to look that way. Do you have a moment? I'd like to have a word with you in private.
There's a little bit of tension that starts to come into his frame. Certainly. He gestures back into the woods just a little bit, just still in sight of his group, but a little ways away.
All right.
We'll walk away a few paces, and then once we get to
get a little
ways away from the group. I'll snap off like pick up a stick or a branch or something, and in between us, draw in the dirt the symbol of the traveler, and look at him. Just what can you tell me about the traveler? My father was a unwilling, but also, I guess, willing servant of his. And I realized that I don't know much about this deity my father served. And I'd love to learn more if you're willing to share.
Make a persuasion check.
Persuasion.
I
really hate this.
Really hate this
so much.
I don't know if you can
see that.
No,
Nope.
sorry, no.
That's a 20.
Minus.
Minus 1. I hate that so much.
A 19. Alright. Certainly. What do you wish to know?
I'd be very interested in learning more of what he or it or stands for. My father was, as I said, a servant of his, but unfortunately I don't know much about either of them.
I cannot speak for your father, but the traveler... Now that I can speak to a fair bit. He guards those who journey, I suppose would be the first thing I would say. He's the patron of those who take the long road.
I can
feel John's blood boiling from the other room.
He's a
Just starting to
patron of
realize.
those. He's a patron of those who don't necessarily fit. Those of us who search for a home.
Sweet.
There are many who don't quite understand him. His domain and his gifts are often misunderstood, shall we say. And to be fair, he does have quite a unique sense of what he takes those of us who don't conform to social standards and gives us a place to belong. He's a deity of change and chaos and transformation.
That's certainly
I
more
agree
than
with
I-
that last part specifically.
You're not there.
You're not there.
Actually, we're
We're transing.
That
That certainly is more than I knew before.
I know
very little of my father. I've only seen him once, and since I was a child, and there was
there was a deal.
There was a deal made between the traveler and my father, and apparently that deal has now fallen
to me. I don't know what form that
deal will take, or if
I should be
worried, or if I should trust the road ahead.
I only
know that it's hard enough to lose your family,
but it's
harder knowing that they have been taken from you. This deity, while albeit part of the deal, has taken something very precious to me. And now bears claim to my family and our line. So I'm not entirely sure how to proceed, and I was hoping to get as much information as I could.
To be honest, I'm not sure how to speak into that, not without knowing the specifics of the deal made. Have you tried asking him?
Asking the traveler?
Yes.
Well,
no.
I am a
cleric of the goddess Sanctum, and I'm not entirely sure.
Let's just
say I'm not entirely sure how the rules work now.
Oh, don't worry about rules with the traveler. There's great joy he takes in flouting them.
Oh, I think John's about to come across this.
Don't you dare!
Don't you dare!
Prancing. He's asleep.
I was referring to Jonathan, not Albert.
Albert is having nightmares at this moment about conversations like this. Next favorite enemy, the traveler.
Making Celestials your next favorite enemy would be very interesting.
Right.
Whoa. I mean, if they already are, just put a name on it. So.
Right. Would you happen to have another symbol of the traveler with you?
He reaches up and he unclasps his necklace and he hands it to you. Take this.
And I'll take it and for the moment I'll put it in my pouch.
Okay.
I appreciate this greatly.
I did have
one more question for you.
Of course.
About
those charms that you use to disguise your form.
Yes.
What
are
those charms you made yourself, or are they something just you can buy somewhere?
These in particular were made by my daughter. It is one of the gifts that the traveler has blessed her with, to create such disguises for us to keep us safe in our travels.
You don't look near old enough to have a daughter.
I'm not sure whether to be flattered or insulted.
Considering the good nature of our conversation, we'll go with flattered.
You wish.
Is she nearby, or
I know
I
myself
and possibly others of our group would be interested while here to possibly purchase
some of these charms.
Well, you know huh?
You're still asleep.
You're still asleep.
Pull these up real quick. Generally, we do not consider these part of our grade. You understand? See if I can price these out, perhaps. How long would it take to actually make?
My God, I'm surprised Rise lasted this long then.
Let's say you remember the comment I made early on.
Yep.
Always keep
one hand on your belongings.
I don't feel like we're
that rude.
For the record, every D&D party is a little bit rude.
I mean, but we haven't spent a whole lot of time stealing from each other.
No, we don't steal from each other, but we are super rude to anybody outside of our little party.
Yeah.
We're
jerks.
Most D&D parties are like that, though. It's like, hey, I don't need you to know your name because you're irrelevant. I'm the protagonist. Welcome to D&D.
I've stolen one thing in this entire game. Do you know how hard that has been?
I was gonna say,
but we also have the Hawk Bandit in our party, so let's just be honest.
Yeah, I feel like
Pretty nice. Hey, let's also be honest. I was not there for that.
the Bard has stolen the same amount as the Rogue, so...
I'm sorry, Lauren. Continue.
Torian. While we do not typically consider these part of our trade, these are not inexpensive to make, and they do take some time. We customize them, you understand, for each person. We do not choose what the form we may take. It is imbued into each charm.
Interesting.
So
your elven form. If
I were to put it
on, I would take on that same elven form.
Indeed.
That is intriguing. And the possibilities. Just out of curiosity, would your daughter be willing to make one for us, or several for us, if we were to gather the coins and material?
I think an agreement could be reached. You'll have to discuss with her exactly how long it would take to enchant each item. If I recall correctly, something along the nature of 2 or 3 weeks per charm. But I suppose it could be done.
That's fair.
There's a lot of possibility, and with most of our party not being from around here, there's appeal in anonymity,
as you
well know.
He smiles.
Well,
I appreciate your
information and
sharing with
me.
If you
need anything from us, please let us know.
Oh, certainly. And once we get back in business, perhaps we may conduct business ourselves with you. We will continue to travel, providing goods and services and transportation of items as needed. I suppose we can come to some sort of discount to be reached as thanks for your assistance.
I appreciate
I
that.
appreciate that.
Now
Lead the way back to the group.
He follows you back. As you get a little closer back to the group, he does point out a bright red tiefling whose skin tone matches his, elegantly dressed in tunic and leggings, horns curling back, bright white hair. That is my joy, my Gwendolyn.
Well,
She's
quite lovely.
quite lovely.
You did well.
You did well, Papa.
He chuckles. She's an adult tiefling, but a young adult. Just clarifying, she's not a little kid.
I kind of figured.
It doesn't help, Jeremiah.
No, it doesn't.
Hey, Val's only 20.
Val's only 20. All right, you know,
He's a young in
he's a young in himself.
57.
She's probably of age with Val in that same age group.
Yeah. So.
So
Oh, no,
Val
we
has
we
a
lost
like
his identity.
fish. It's okay.
Anyway.
Anyway, so you all approach the group. The rest of the watch passes pretty quietly. Is there anything else y'all wanted to do, or shall we go ahead and get moving on for the day?
I'm good.
No, I'm good.
All right.
Yeah, I'm good to keep moving on.
Right.
We're going
Sister.
Wise.
Do what?
I was going to say, tech-wise, this is normally about the time we take our break. Do we want to do that? And is it feasible for us too? Or is it going to get super crazy with the tech?
Well, that's a good question.
I think we can take a break and then we'll come back. We'll discuss what we do next. How about that?
Sounds like a plan. So we'll go ahead and we'll take a bio break. Snacks, water, stay hydrated, get some munchies, use the bathroom.
Wash your hands.
And
Wash your
hands. Always wash your hands. We'll be back here in 10 or 15 minutes.
Cool.
Thanks y'all for joining us, and we will see you shortly.
Go.
And welcome back. Alright guys, we'll go ahead and we'll jump right back into this. It is the morning of a due day. It's actually late morning by this point. A lot of people slept in when they could, as much as the kids would let them. When you have a group of kids, there are enough people around to watch them. Mom and Dad can get a little bit of sleep when they get it.
That's what I'm here for.
Fair enough. So pretty quickly they get themselves packed up. They get the kids corralled. Torian approaches and speaks to the group of y'all. It looks like we are preparing to head to Grimhold. I do thank you again for all your assistance, and truly, I wish I had some means of thanking you. Unfortunately, this time I am somewhat limited in what I can offer, but should we meet again, some discount on goods or services provided, I'm sure can be arranged.
Well, darling, you may actually have something, at least for my sake, I can't say for the gentleman, but some information that might be useful on our travels. Two things. Have you heard of the Golden Cog?
I've heard of them. I'm familiar with some of their work. I can't say I am one of their customers at this point, but clearly I've heard some quite interesting things about them.
Yes, darling. We have found ourselves in the midst of a journey to take something to the Golden Cog in Whitefront, and we have also heard some very interesting things in regards to them in particular, and so I was hoping perhaps you might share with us any information you have so we can understand fully the situation we find ourselves in.
Certainly, to the best of my ability. Go ahead and roll a persuasion check.
Not great. $19.
Okay. To the best of my understanding, they are construct makers, designers of various aids and tools, and they're quite gifted in the sort of things they create. They're also quite expensive. They start for their most basic models. They are very customizable. You can what's the word I'm looking for? You can purchase any variety of skills to be imbued into these constructs for any purpose that you can desire. Now, the constructs themselves are fairly limited, and the cog enchants them to respond to one individual at that individual's passing. Part of the contract with the cog is that the constructs returned to one of their facilities to be, broken down, I suppose, or given the chance to harvest the energies and repurpose them to one extent or another. They have a spectacular business model, from all I can tell. They're quite successful in what they do, and very skilled. I've heard no complaints from their customers.
Oh, interesting, darling. Yes, the second thing. I have been on a journey myself to find a different item, and it leads me to what was he called? The Underlord?
White Brand.
Yes, darling.
I was there not too long ago myself. Now, the Underlord is it's a shady business, you understand. Somewhat more... And he pauses. You're familiar with the Underlord? with the eggs and the sorts of work that they do. The Underlord runs more in line with Alessin's work than with Malakal Space, if you take my meaning.
I have to be frank, I do not.
Oh, how to say delicately, you understand.
Well, there's no need to be delicate, we're all friends here.
The Underlord is not afraid to... Well, let's just say he wants to be he wants something new and interesting, and if you do not entertain him with your gift or offering, you will entertain him in other ways.
Ah, oh. Very interesting.
He has quite a collection, I understand. I gifted him an item myself some years ago, and that was quite an experience. Before you attain an audience with him, you must prove yourself to be interesting or noteworthy in some way. Create a gift that may catch his interest, or complete a task, or, if nothing else, make it through his cave alive.
Thank you very much. Yes, darling.
He looks around at the group of strapping men you surround yourself with, and I would not recommend going into this particular place alone, you understand. These fine gentlemen are, well, hopefully enough to assist you there.
Yes, I'm sure I need all of their assistance.
Have you further questions? Anything I might be of use with? I'm afraid the sun is high, and, well, we'd like to be leaving this area as quick as we may.
Oh, yes, darling, of course, and I'll put my pendant on.
And you notice now behind him, most of the others already have theirs on, having adopted more human and half-elven and elven disguises. He is the last tiefling that you see. He doesn't put his on just yet, but he nods at you, bows to you again, and truly I cannot thank you enough. If I may, in fact, be of service, please do let me know.
I need nothing else, gentlemen.
I do believe that is it. I think we should be on our way to Viper's.
On we go.
Alright, so you go ahead and you watch them head off. Torian, a short time later, does in fact put his charm on and assume his elven guise. Now that you're sort of aware of the illusion, you do notice that his shadow does not change, that there is still his tail waving behind him, his horns casting an interesting, unique to his head on his shadow, and the others of the group likewise. But they do start heading up the path, and before they make it too terribly far, you do hear them start singing and amusing the kids as they start on their journey. And you get back and you find your horse and your cart. And what do you choose to do?
I couldn't hear part of it.
I do believe we should. We're at the horse and the cart and everything is where we left it, right?
Yep. Nothing has been disturbed from the last time you left it.
Well, let's get on the road and start heading east again.
Yeah.
Alright,
Mm-hmm.
so y'all start hitting these. Cue traveling montage for the sake of brevity.
Traveling.
No one. I have a reveal I need to do right now.
Well, by all means.
She takes off a second pendant. She's
No, I really don't.
Over the next couple of weeks, unless there's anything in particular y'all want to take care of, you do manage to ford the rivers, which are running a little bit high just because of the rain and the storms that passed through. It takes about 2.5, almost 3 weeks for y'all to get to White Brand. And as you approach, you realize the grassland is transitioning to more scraggly brush, and from there to more of a desert. As y'all pass the highlands, pass through just south of the highland, with Boulder Peak almost around, you are well and truly into the desert. Even though it's still early summer, the wind starts blowing south from the lands, and it White Brand, the drier the air gets, and you realize this is fairly unforgiving terrain. But you come through the trade roads as you approach White Brand, and you come down into the valley where it's situated, and you're overwhelmed by a sense of humidity and green. And you realize White Brand is situated in this valley around an oasis, probably one of the largest in this area to sustain such a large city. And I think this is probably where we're going to go ahead and pause it. Looks like we're having some tech issues. So unless there's anything anybody really wants to jump on, we will go ahead and cut the session here for today. And try again next week.
Whether we do it today or next,
good.
some point on this travel, I want JoJo back.
You do know that at this point it's going to take a fairly lengthy ritual to get this set up. And part of the material components for this ritual are an offering of fur, of feathers, and scales.
Oh.
Okay.
I actually have a red dragonborn scale.
Oh, sweet. I have Albert Feather.
2 of 3.
Appreciate it, Doran. Now I don't have to sleight of hand against Solyax.
Wait, hold on, wait.
We have this place to be stirred, don't we?
Hold on to that scale.
Yeah, I've got a displacer beast. We can get some
Well,
fur.
there you go. We got it.
But I could kind of want to see that sleight of hand against Solyax. Just saying.
Not gonna lie.
These
Find the loose scale.
all three inherently magical. Oh, this is going to be interesting. I'm looking forward to this.
Sweet. Me too.
Alright.
So we can start next session with that fun endeavor.
Sweet.
Yeah, why don't we go ahead and plan on that? So first thing next session, we'll go ahead and we'll get that taken care of for Kazator.
Yes.
I miss JoJo.
Thank you.
We all miss
Anything
JoJo.
else in particular for that, Jordan, I will let you know this week.
Okay.
Oh, it's been good to talk with y'all. For the rest of you joining us, thank you very much for tuning in. We will catch y'all next week. Be safe, stay healthy, wash your hands, be kind to each other. I know there's a lot of stuff going on. The world's kind of crazy at the moment, but isn't it always? So be careful. Love you guys.
Love you guys.